Hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Sean and this is the first official video on my YouTube channel. So thank you very much for coming along. I hope you enjoy the video. Before we get into the main video, I wanted to give just a little bit of a background on me, who I am, because like I said, this is my first video. My name is Sean, I'm based in Dublin, Ireland, and I run a small digital marketing agency based here in Dublin, working with clients small to medium sizes all throughout Ireland, a few in the UK as well. We offer digital marketing services ranging from social media management, ad creation, podcast advertising, content creation, filming, photo editing, video editing, that sort of thing. Now, disclaimer off the bat, I am no tech genius. I am not claiming to be, and I will never claim to be. I am just a tech fan, a little bit of an Apple fanboy. I run most of my business off primarily Apple products, MacBook, iPhone, iPad, the like. And let's be honest, the last thing YouTube needs is another tech genius telling you facts and figures about products that you'll never buy and will have no interest in and really mean nothing to you on a daily basis now, do they? So no, what I want to do is share real world information about the products that I use, how they help me in my business, how they can hopefully help you in your business. I'll be sharing some hints and tips to do with marketing, some step-by-step guides to do with digital advertising, content creation, the various apps and programs that I use. I have a lot of content planned for the next couple of months, particularly over the summer. So if that's the sort of thing you think you're going to get benefit of, please do consider liking and subscribing to the channel, hitting the notification bell to be notified whenever I do upload a video. It'd be really helpful. I'd really like to get this off the ground nice and quickly and provide you with as much content as I possibly can that's really useful to you. So then, this video will be a comparison between two iPads. I have recently upgraded to the 2021 M1 iPad Pro 11-inch from the 2019 iPad Air. And part of the reason I wanted to do this particular video to start with, in all of my research and looking into the new product and upgrading and whether it's worth it or not once on all of the internet, on any YouTube channel, on any tech blog whatsoever did I find a reasonable comparison between the 2021 iPad Pro and the 2019 iPad Air. And that was a bit weird to me because that to me seems like a pretty logical upgrade. I've had the old one for about 3.5 years at this point, and that seems like a good time to be upgrading your tech. Most people would upgrade their tech every kind of 3, 5, 7 years. How often do you upgrade your phone? I upgrade my phone every maybe 3 years. You tell me in the comments below, how often do you upgrade your tech? But for iPads, I thought 3.5 years is a pretty good time, and yet nobody has thought to do this comparison. And I couldn't understand why. Most videos relating the iPad Pro 11-inch from 2021 to previous models related to the 2020 version, which is identical with the exception of the chip upgrade. And lo and behold, every single tech video that I have seen just says, don't bother upgrading if it's the 2020. It's not much of a difference. Who does that help? That didn't help me at all. I want a comparison between the 2019 and the 2021 because I think it's a good upgrade. It makes sense. The 2022 iPad Air is beautiful. The blue especially looks absolutely stunning, but it is ludicrously expensive. The price of the Air has gone up by over €200 since I bought mine, and at that point it is so close to the Pro that you might as well upgrade to the Pro. At least in my opinion, you get more for your money. And it should last you a bit longer, and it's just a better device. And we'll go into a little bit more depth in this video as to what I mean by that. But to start with, let's have a look at the iPad Air, shall we? Here it is. This is the 2019 iPad Air 3rd generation. It's got a 64GB memory, which is not a lot. Comes in this beautiful silver white, which is smudged to hell on the front because I use it quite regularly. And it has Apple's A12 Bionic chip, which for reference was the one they put in the iPhone XS and XR a couple of years ago. This is a 10.5-inch laminated Retina display, which is fine. You know, it's alright for watching YouTube and Netflix videos on. It has a lightning port on the bottom for charging. It's got Touch ID in the home button. Got 2 speakers on the bottom. It's got a headphone jack. And it's got 2 rubbish cameras, to be honest. The rear camera is an 8 megapixel that looks like just white noise whenever you film off it. The front is a 7 megapixel, which is fine for FaceTime videos, and realistically that is the only time you are going to be using the cameras on this iPad. Now, I bought this new in 2019 for about €550, which at the time was expensive, but a pretty good deal because the iPad Pro at the time was €300 to €500 more expensive. Again, not the case anymore because that new Air is so damn expensive. So this was a pretty good price at the time for what it was. It's a brand new chip, it was a brand new iPad, it's a nice design, and it has lots of features in it. It has a smart connector in it, which meant it could connect to Apple's smart keyboard. Not the Magic Keyboard, unfortunately, but the smart keyboard with zero lag, which is pretty good. Since I bought it, I have been using it alongside this Logitech Combo Touch keyboard and case. Now, this is a really good accessory. It's the best accessory, in my opinion, for this particular iPad. This uses the smart connector so that there is zero lag between your key inputs and the device because it doesn't connect over Bluetooth. It's a smart connector. It also has a very convenient kickstand, which is especially useful because the keyboard detaches, and then it's a kickstand for video content. This is really, really useful on a plane where you really, especially a Ryanair plane, where you have really tight space to watch something, you can kick this stand out and it works really, really well. When you disconnect the keyboard, you also have the case still protecting the iPad, which is nice. So that's all very nice. That's all very pretty, all very white and clean. But why have I upgraded? Now that is the question. Quite frankly, it is because while it's all nice to have, it's not quite cutting the mustard anymore. Now, when I bought this in 2019 for a previous job, it did exactly what I needed it to. I took notes on it. I have the first generation Apple Pencil, which is okay, but crap because it has, the cap and charges by lightning cable. I lost the cap about a week after I bought it and never bothered to buy a new one. But it did work pretty well for that. I was able to take notes in meetings. I was able to type out notes in meetings, type out the odd script and blog, do the odd bit of PowerPoint editing, a little bit of editing on Canva, stuff like that, nothing too intense. And it was essentially kind of an addition to my desktop in my office, which obviously I couldn't transport around. I wasn't bothered buying another laptop at the time because I didn't need one. 550 quid for this was all I needed, and it did the job at the time. It's also, like I said, really good for watching videos on the go. But in the past year and a half, it has really started to show its age and its lack of power, unfortunately. And again, I'm not going to go into details of the Geekbench scores and all that crap, which I don't even understand myself. So why would I attempt to explain it to you? There's no point. In real world, living with this device, it is not as quick as it used to be. Now, that is partially probably because of, updates to the software. We all know that as Apple introduces new software, it tends to drop off the support and speed of some of its older devices, even the ones that can still get these upgrades. This one, for example, will get iPadOS 16 later this year, but almost none of the features in it, unfortunately. So again, it's kind of already being killed off. But the real thing for me as to why I discovered this was slowing down was actually Canva. Like I mentioned, I used to use that decently often in my old job, but not too intensely. But nowadays, running my own business, SMK Marketing, link to the website below, nice plug. I use Canva on almost a daily basis, creating Instagram posts for my clients, creating YouTube thumbnails, creating short video reels, PDF documents, ebooks, the like, anything that can be done in Canva, I am doing in Canva on a regular basis. Canva's a great app. Unfortunately, it's not quite cutting the mustard on the iPad anymore. It works, it's just slow and it's quite fiddly, to be perfectly honest. It's quite hard to edit anything with any real kind of use. And what I can do in 5 minutes on my MacBook might take me half an hour on the iPad. The other big thing for me is Facebook. Now, when I say Facebook, I don't mean scrolling randomly through the timeline aimlessly and numbly waiting for something interesting to come up. I mean actually using Facebook for business. Specifically, Facebook's Ads Manager platform on the back end to create campaigns for my clients. Now, Facebook do have an app for this, and it sucks. It really absolutely sucks. The Facebook Business Suite app for iPhone and iPad is rubbish. For doing intense multi-layer, multi-ad set, multi-ad copy campaigns on a deep, intimate level that I do for my clients who want to do big, comprehensive ad campaigns on Facebook, that app is hopeless. So I need to use the desktop version in Safari. Now, on the MacBook, this works faultlessly. There is no issue with it whatsoever, especially on Safari. Chrome, it's a different story, but on Safari, on the new MacBook, it is brilliant. It opens on Safari on the iPad, but that's about it. It doesn't really work all that well. What I can do in maybe 5 or 10 minutes on the MacBook, like I said, might take me half an hour or an hour on the iPad because it just can't handle it. And to be perfectly honest, like I said, I am no tech genius. I have no idea if that's to do with Safari, if that's to do with Facebook not supporting mobile version of Safari, if that's the chip in this not being fast enough for it, but I have already tested Ads Manager on the new iPad and it works perfectly. And I did that before I bought it. I have a friend who has one and it worked perfectly. That for me was the kind of final nail in the coffin that this is something that I can use on a daily basis, whether I have my MacBook with me or not, and still work at near 100%, and that was why I upgraded. Alright then, now for the upgrade, and here it is. And like I said, when I said I upgraded recently, I really meant yet recently. This came yesterday, actually, while I was filming the first half of this, of the old one. This is the 2021 iPad Pro 11-inch with the M1 chip inside and 128GB of storage, so about twice as much as is in the old one. This comes packed with the powerhouse that is the M1 chip, which Apple launched in late 2020 with the M1 MacBook Pro and M1 MacBook Air. I actually owned the M1 MacBook Pro 13-inch at the time, so to have the same power inside a tablet, that's exactly what I was looking for, I think. So this has the 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU, 8GB of unified memory, which is Apple's fancy term for RAM, and is essentially, as I said, a desktop chip in a tablet, which is extremely impressive. I don't know really why Apple felt the need to do this. I think by all accounts, the older versions were perfectly fine. My dad, for example, has a 2018 version with the A12X in it, and it's still extremely quick. But with the launch of iPad OS 16 later this year, Apple is already dropping support for models that don't have an M1 in them. Now, I'm not 100% sure why, but it already speaks to the fact that they are transitioning everything over to be M1 powered or better. So anything not M1 powered is going to start losing functionality very, very quickly starting this year. Even if it's only a year old, the 2020 model will already lose functionality from iPad OS 16. So that's part of why I went for this and not one of the older ones at a slightly lower price. Comparing the two, they are about the same size. I have a blog on my website with the full actual tech specs and size spec breakdowns. They are about the same size. The new one is actually a little bit thinner, believe it or not, even though it's a squared off design, but the tapered look of the old one actually makes it a little bit thicker. It continues with the squared off design first introduced in the 2018 iPad Pros, continued then with the iPhone 12 and 13, and even then introduced in the MacBook Pros in 2021 and the new MacBook Air in 2022. It's much more comfortable to hold than the old one was. I know it is technically heavier, but it does not feel it. I think it's only a tiny bit heavier. And the full screen design is just a little bit nicer to look at and to use. It feels like a much bigger tablet, even though physically it isn't. This model features the 11-inch ProMotion display, which means it has a 120Hz refresh rate. Now, if you don't know what that means, refresh rate is basically the frames per second of a monitor. So it's essentially a 120 frames per second monitor, which is cool. The old one was only 60. I'll put a shot right here, bit of slow-mo so you can see exactly what the difference between that is. Now, this isn't the full mini LED XDR display of the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, or the new MacBook Pros for that matter, but it is still a gorgeous display. It has up to 600 nits of brightness, which is 100 more than the Air, and it also features much better cameras. As you can see on the back of the Air, it's got a tiny, tiny little bump that actually just looks like I hit it too hard with a nail. It's not really much of a camera, and a tiny bump on the front as well for the FaceTime camera, which, as I mentioned, is all you'd ever really use the cameras for. This has a much more impressive system. It's got a 12 megapixel wide camera on the back and a 10 megapixel ultra wide camera on the back, which is nice. It also has a LiDAR scanner, much like the iPhones 12 and 13, which helps it with augmented reality stuff, which Apple is really starting to focus on more and more. The front camera is a huge step up. It is a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera compared to the 7 megapixel potato camera on this. The ultra wide camera in this means that it comes with Center Stage, which is Apple's cool new face tracking software for FaceTime calls. Essentially, when you are on a call, it can zoom in and out to follow your face. If someone else walks into frame with you, it can zoom out and track them as well. It is extremely intelligent. I didn't think it would work as well as it does. It works faultlessly. It is absolutely incredible. It's a bit of a gimmick, but I can imagine I'd actually probably use this as my main video conferencing device. I'm on calls with clients almost every day. I do use the camera on my MacBook for that for the most part, but I think with this feature now I will probably use this more because it gives me a little bit more room to play with in terms of what I'm able to share with my clients on a video call. Finally then, the big camera bump also allows this to film in 4K, which is a big important thing for me because, as I mentioned, I do a lot of 4K filming with clients. So this made a lot of sense. It is a literal all-in-one device. It is a video editor, it is a software development tool, it is a website editor, it's an ad creation tool, and now it's a full video camera as well, which is nice. So it was really worth the money in terms of being an all-in-one device. Now, for reference, I did get this on a pretty good deal. It's been out for about a year now. I got this for about €820 with taxes and shipping and stuff from Amazon. I'll put a link in the description down below, and what it did was allow me to also buy the case for it. And the case in question was another Logitech Combo Touch because I loved it so much on the Air. This one's the Air, I know, because it's got the pencil on it. It's brilliant. It's very, very good. It's good, secure case. It really, really holds the tablet well and secure, even without the keyboard attached to it, but also the typing experience is much better. amazingly, even though the iPad is technically a little bit bigger, the new case is much, much smaller, and even holding it right now, it is so much lighter. I think that's partially due to the fact that the old iPad has that curved design, so it actually has to be a bit bulkier to match that. This is flatter, it sits much more flush. It is much more comfortable, but it is also a little bit bigger. So the keyboard is a bit bigger on it. It's a bit nicer to type on. The trackpad is noticeably larger on it, and the magnet for the keyboard is actually much stronger. So, why did I upgrade? That's the key point here. And looking at them right here, they look quite similar apart from the massive white bezels, which are more garish than I thought they were, having the new one now, which is nice and flush. Well, first off, I adore my MacBook. It's the 16-inch 2021 MacBook Pro with the M1 Pro chip. It is a total workhorse, but I use it primarily as a desktop. Part of the reason I bought the 16-inch upgrading over the old 13-inch is that I am traveling a bit more now, and I run my business just myself, and I do want to be able to continue to work at 100% when I'm abroad or when I'm traveling, even if it means lugging around something a bit heavier. And I traveled quite recently to Canada and the United States, and I felt that I was able to work at 100% for the whole trip, which was really nice. But while it's great for long journeys like that, for client meetings, short trips, short weekends away that I don't really need to be doing all that much work, working from bed, working from the couch, working from my mom's house, whatever it is that I don't quite need the full 100% power, I wanted to still be able to work at 80 to 90% and still do editing on Canva, video editing if need be, ad creation and ad reporting if needs be, blog writing when needs be. All of that stuff that I just couldn't quite do on this. The writing side of it, this is fine for. Everything else, this just wasn't cutting the mustard. The screen actually, even sitting them side by side right now, is really small by comparison. I know it's only half an inch, but really, honestly, it makes a big difference, and the bezels are quite distracting. I've used this for a day and a half now. I've tried a bit of everything on it. I've tried some video editing. I've tried some photo editing on Canva. I've tried to create an ad on Facebook Ads Manager, and everything worked like that. As an added personal bonus, I even tried a bit of gaming. Real Racing 3 takes forever to load on this. On this, I was amazed at how quickly it loads and a little bit put off by how quickly it loaded, because I'm used to setting a race to load on this and then going off and doing something for a minute and a half while it loads. This happened instantly. Really nice. I also should say I typed up the whole script for this video on both of these. I did the first half for the iPad Air on the iPad Air, and it was fine. And then once I unboxed it, I transitioned over to finish the rest of it on the iPad Pro. And to be perfectly honest, the typing experience was just that little bit nicer on the new one. Again, for that particular kind of task, it's not really anything to do with the iPad. For this, it was more to do with the actual trackpad and keypad attached to it. And the combo touch for the new one is just that little bit bigger. The trackpad is a little bit bigger and noticeably better. It's more clicky throughout. And the typing experience is just a little bit easier, a little bit nicer. The magnet is much stronger, so even when I was typing on my lap, it felt much more secure than the old one, which was starting to feel a bit flimsy. Now, again, it's 3 and a bit years old, so it might just be that the hinge and the magnet have weakened over time, but I don't remember it ever being as strong and secure as this one feels right now. So, again, much nicer experience overall. I think it was worth the money. So there we go, that is my comparison between the 2019 iPad Air and the 2021 iPad Pro 11-inch with the M1 chip. Do I think you should upgrade? Yes, actually I do. I think this is a good upgrade for anyone really, whether you want this for the power that it comes with or just as your everyday media viewing device. If you are coming from a 2019 iPad Air or older, or really any of this older design iPad with the big bezels, then yes, I think the iPad Pro is worth an upgrade. And the reason I would suggest the Pro over the new iPad Air is that the new iPad Air is, as I mentioned, ridiculously expensive, and I can't quite understand what Apple are doing with it. I don't really know why they put the M1 in that. What I would suggest is, if you are in the market to be upgrading to a new iPad, this is expensive, I'm not going to beat around the bush on that, but you know, save up for another month, put another $5 or $10 a week away and go for the Pro. It really will. It'll last you longer, and it's got way more features. The better screen and better speakers are worth the upgrade on their own because they're much better for viewing content. I recommend the Pro to anyone coming from something like the 2019 Air or older. So, bye buddy, thanks for all your help. So I will be doing a lot of work off this from the coming weeks, and I will do an update in a couple of weeks time of exactly what everything is like on it, how ad creation is, how video editing is, how photo editing is, basically how I run my business now, partially supplanted by this iPad. So finally, to finish off, if you are a small company looking for some help with digital marketing, social media management, ad creation or content creation, do please hit me up on the website link below, smkmarketing.ie. We are happy to help any business of any size. We are based here in Dublin, Ireland, but we can help people all over the world. So if that's something you're interested in, if something you need a bit of help with, do hit us up at the link below. We'd be really happy to have a chat with you. The first 15-minute consultation is completely free. So then, thank you very, very much for watching this first video. Do remember to like and subscribe if you got value out of this. I will have more updates coming on this iPad and other tech devices that I use to run my business, to run my marketing agency in the coming weeks. So be sure to hit the notification bell so you're notified as soon as one of them goes live. I've been Sean. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Have a good day.